The first sign that something was terribly wrong came from a routine patrol on the outer edge of Council space, the battleship. Eternal Glory was one of the Council's most advanced vessels equipped with technology that had kept the galaxy safe. For thousands of years, Captain Zelkar, a veteran warrior from the Scaled reptilian species, had commanded ships like this for over 200 years. The ship was making its regular sweep of the border systems when all communication suddenly stopped. The last message received by Council headquarters was routine, everything normal, all systems functioning perfectly, then nothing. At first the Council assumed it was a simple communication failure. Such things happened occasionally in the vast emptiness of space. They sent another ship to investigate, but that vessel also vanished without a trace. No distress signal, no debris, no survivors. Just empty space where two of their most powerful warships had been. Council Speaker Vextar stood before an emergency meeting of the governing body, his forearms moving in obvious distress. This was unprecedented in all their long history. Council ships simply did not disappear. The situation is becoming critical, he announced to the gathered representatives. In the past 6 months, we have lost contact with 47 vessels across 12 different sectors. Our most advanced ships are vanishing as if they never existed. The great chamber buzzed with worried voices in dozens of alien languages. Representative Quinera, a floating being made of living crystal, pulsed with nervous energy. Could this be pirates? She asked. Pirates with technology advanced enough to defeat our battleships? Impossible, replied Vextar. Our ships are the most advanced in the galaxy. No pirate force could match our firepower or our shields, but the disappearances continued and they were getting worse. Entire patrol fleets would vanish overnight. Trade routes became dangerous as merchant ships failed to arrive at their destinations. Fear began to spread through the galaxy's civilized worlds. What the Council did not know was that their missing ships were not destroyed. They were very much intact, hidden away in secret bases throughout human space in a massive facility built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Human engineers were carefully taking apart alien technology piece by piece. Dr. Kim So-young walked between the captured vessels, her team working frantically to understand every system, every component, every design. Principal, it truly is amazing, she told Admiral Lee Dong-min as he inspected their progress. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it follows the same patterns they have used for thousands of years. She pointed to a display showing the inner workings of a Council battleship. Once we understood how they think, how they build things, capturing their ships became almost easy. Their computers expect certain responses, their shields have predictable weaknesses, their weapons fire in predictable patterns. And the crews? Admiral Lee Dong-min asked. Safe and comfortable in our detention facilities, Dr. Kim So-young replied. Most of them are actually quite cooperative once they realize we are not going to hurt them. Some are even helping us understand their technology better. They seem fascinated by our approach to engineering. The Admiral nodded approvingly. Good. We are not monsters, despite what the Council thinks, but we need to move faster. The Council will eventually figure out that something is wrong. Commander Park Ji-woo approached carrying a datapad full of test results. Admiral, the new ships are ready for full deployment. We have combined the best of their technology with our own innovations. The results exceed every expectation. We had show me, the Admiral ordered. They moved to an observation deck that looked out over the hidden fleet. What they saw would have terrified the Council members into silence. Dozens of ships floated in the artificial harbor, but these vessels looked like nothing the galaxy had ever seen before. They were not copies of human ships or alien ships, but something entirely new. The hulls were sleek and smooth like living things, but they pulsed with energy conduits that glowed with inner light. The engines were compact but incredibly powerful. The weapons were small but devastatingly effective. The Council ships are built for efficiency and predictability, Park Ji-woo explained. Our ships are built for adaptability and surprise. They can change their shape during battle, reconfigure their weapons, and even alter their energy signatures to avoid detection. Meanwhile, in Council space, the crisis was growing worse by the day. Military commanders were afraid to send out patrols because ships that left port simply never returned. The Council's authority was beginning to crack as member species started to question whether their protectors could actually protect them. Council member Zepho's intelligent reptilian, being known for his strategic Thinking presented a theory that chilled everyone in the chamber. What if these disappearances are not random, he asked. What if there is a pattern we are missing? The speaker's skin turned a darker shade of gray. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that we are being hunted. Zephos replied, something or someone is systematically targeting our ships. Learning our weakness is preparing for something much larger. The words hung in the air like a death sentence for the first time in their long history. The mighty Galactic Council felt afraid. Their perfect order, their superior technology, their absolute confidence in their own power, all of it was being challenged by an enemy they could not see or understand. We need to find out who is responsible, Vextar declared with more desperation than authority in his voice. Double our patrols, increase security in every system. Start investigating every place where ships have vanished. The investigations revealed nothing. The missing ships had simply vanished without leaving any clues. The Council's best investigators found no evidence of who was responsible, no trace of advanced technology, no sign of any known enemy. If the Council had looked more carefully at their own records, they might have noticed something interesting. The disappearances had started exactly 5 years after a certain species had been rejected from Council membership. The timing was perfect, but the Council had already forgotten about the primitive humans they had dismissed. In their arrogance, they never considered that the species they had insulted might be capable of such sophisticated operations. The humans were supposed to be too primitive, too weak, too divided to threaten anyone back in human space. The preparations were nearly complete. Admiral Li Dongmin stood in the main command center watching as the final ships of the human fleet completed their modifications. These vessels represented the best of both worlds, human innovation combined with alien technology. Dr. Kim So-young approached with the latest intelligence reports. Admiral, our spy networks report that the Council is in complete panic. They have no idea who is responsible for the attacks. They are investigating every known species. Except us? The Admiral smiled coldly. Their arrogance is still blinding them. They cannot believe that the primitive humans they rejected could be capable of this. What about the other rejected species? Commander Park Ji-woo asked. Many of them are watching with great interest. Dr. Kim So-young replied. The Council rejected dozens of species over the centuries, calling them unworthy or dangerous. Now those same species are wondering if they should reconsider their relationship with the Council. The galaxy was changing in ways the Council had never imagined. The absolute authority they had enjoyed for millennia was cracking under the pressure of an enemy they could not identify or defeat. Their perfect order was being challenged by chaos they could not control. Soon they would learn that the species they had dismissed as primitive and chaotic had become something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The humans were ready to reveal themselves, and when they did, the galaxy would never be the same. The Council had created their own nemesis by rejecting the one species that would never accept defeat. Now they were about to face the consequences of their arrogance and their contempt. The humans were coming, and they were bringing a reckoning that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The giant space station floated in the dark void like a shining silver city among the stars. It was bigger than any human had ever seen, stretching for miles in every direction with towers that reached toward infinity. This was the home of the mighty Galactic Council, the rulers of 47 different alien species across the entire galaxy. Inside the great meeting hall, thousands of strange creatures filled the seats. Their bodies came in every shape and color imaginable. Some looked like walking trees with bark for skin. Others were floating balls of light that pulsed with different colors. There were beings with 6 arms and others with no arms at all. Some had scales like fish, while others had skin that looked like polished metal. The air buzzed with the sound of dozens of different languages as they all spoke at once. At the center of this amazing display stood 3 humans, wearing simple blue uniforms. They looked so small and plain compared to the alien beings around them, but they stood straight and proud despite being surrounded by creatures that could crush them without effort. Captain Li Dongmin was the leader of the human group. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and lines around his eyes that showed he had seen many battles. His face showed no fear, even though he knew the next few minutes would decide the fate of his entire species. Behind him stood Commander Park Ji-woo, a younger man with broad shoulders and steady hands who had trained his Whole life for this moment. Next to him was Dr. Kim So-young, a brilliant woman whose mind was sharper than any weapon and who had spent years preparing for this day. The three humans had traveled through space for 3 long months to reach this place. They had left behind their families, their friends, and their home planet Earth, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of 8 billion people. Their ship was small and slow compared to the alien vessels they had seen, but they had made it. Here, through pure determination, high above them on a platform that looked like a throne made of crystal, sat the council speaker. He was a tall alien with 4 arms and skin that looked like smooth gray stone. His eyes were large and black, and when he looked at the humans, it was like he was looking at insects that had crawled into his house. His voice was deep and cold when he finally spoke. The humans request membership in our great galactic council, he announced to the thousands of watching aliens. We have looked at their planet, we have studied their ways, we have examined their technology and their society. His 4 arms moved as he spoke, making gestures that showed his disgust. Captain Lee Dongmin stepped forward, ready to speak for his people, but the speaker held up one of his hands to stop him. Your species is too violent, he continued, his voice growing louder. You fight wars against your own kind, you destroy your own planet with pollution and waste. You cannot even live in peace with each other. How can you expect to live in peace with us? The alien crowd made sounds that might have been agreement. Some clicked their tongues while others made low humming noises. The floating balls of light pulsed brighter and the tree-like beings swayed as if blown by wind. Furthermore, the speaker went on, your technology is laughably primitive, your ships are slow and clumsy. Your weapons are basic and crude, your medicine is hundreds of years behind ours. What could you possibly offer to our advanced civilization? Dr. Kim So-young felt her hands clench into fists, but she forced herself to stay calm. She had expected this. The humans had known their technology was not as advanced as the aliens, but they had hoped their other qualities would matter. We may not have the most advanced technology, she said, stepping forward, but we have something else. We have the ability to learn and grow quickly. We never give up when faced with problems. We work together to find solutions. We adapt to any situation. The speaker looked at her with what might have been amusement on his strange face. Adapt, he repeated the word like it tasted bad. Determination, learning, these are not valuable qualities. Young species, we value order, we value stability. We value predictability. Your species shows none of these traits. The alien crowd erupted in what sounded like laughter, but from so many different throats that it created a horrible chorus of sound. Some aliens made chirping noises while others produced deep booming sounds that shook the air. The humans stood in the center of it all, feeling like they were being mocked by the entire galaxy. Commander Park Ji-woo stepped closer to his captain, ready to defend their honor, but Lee Dongmin gave him a small shake of the head. They had come here to ask for membership, not to start a fight. The council has made its decision, the speaker announced, raising all 4 of his arms to quiet the crowd. Humanity is rejected. You are not ready for galactic citizenship. You are forbidden from entering council space. Your ships will be turned away at our borders. You will return to your small corner of the galaxy, and perhaps in a few thousand years, when you have learned to behave like civilized beings, you may try again. The words hit the humans like physical blows. They had traveled so far and hoped for so much, only to be told they were not good enough. The rejection was complete and final, but the speaker was not finished, yet he continued, his voice now filled with threat. Do not think you can force your way into our space. Our fleets are vast and powerful. Our weapons can destroy entire planets. Any aggression from your primitive species will be met with complete destruction. Go home, little humans, and stay there where you belong. The great hall fell silent, except for the soft humming of the space station systems. Every alien eye was watching the 3 humans, waiting to see how they would react to this crushing rejection. Some aliens looked curious, while others seemed bored, as if they had seen this happen many times before. Captain Lee Dongmin looked up at the speaker for a long moment. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes were hard as steel. We understand, he said in a voice that was calm and steady. We will remember this moment. We will remember every word you have said. The way he said it made something cold run down the speaker's spine, but the alien dismissed the feeling. These primitive humans could not threaten the mighty council. As the 3 humans turned to leave, the speaker called out one final insult. Remember this day, humans, remember that you were found wanting. Remember that you are not worthy to stand among the civilized species of the galaxy, the humans. Walked toward the exit, their footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. None of the watching aliens noticed the small device that Dr. Kim So-young had been carrying the whole time, recording every word of their rejection. None of them saw the cold smile that crossed Lee Dongmin's face as the doors closed behind them. The council had made their decision. They had rejected humanity with contempt and cruelty. They had insulted and threatened them. They had made it clear that humans were not welcome in their perfect ordered galaxy. What they did not know was that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had turned away a species that would rather die than quit, a species that grew stronger when challenged, a species that had survived ice ages and world wars and had always found a way to not just survive but to thrive. The humans were going home, but they were not going home to hide. They were going home to prepare, and when they returned, the galaxy would never be the same again. The council thought they had ended a problem that day. Instead, they had created their worst nightmare. They had given humanity something that would prove more powerful than any weapon or technology. They had given them a reason to prove everyone wrong. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's long history. Panic filled the Great Chamber as representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss the crisis that was destroying their civilization. The attacks had escalated beyond anyone's worst fears, and the Council's mighty fleets were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. Speaker Vexstar stood at the center of the chamber, his forearms shaking with stress and fear. His once proud demeanor had crumbled under the weight of constant defeats. The being who had once dismissed humanity with such contempt now looked like a broken leader facing the end of his world. The situation has moved beyond critical, he announced to the frightened gathering. We have lost contact with 3 entire sectors of space. Our most advanced battleships are disappearing as quickly as we can deploy them. The chamber erupted in frightened voices as representatives from different species called out their concerns. Some spoke in high-pitched whistles, while others made deep, rumbling sounds that shook the air. The unity and confidence that had once characterized council meetings had been replaced by chaos and fear. Representative Quinera's crystalline form flickered with terror as she spoke. Our intelligence report suggests that whoever is attacking us has technology that equals or surpasses our own. This should be impossible, not just equals, interrupted council member Zephos, his reptilian eyes filled with a fear that his warrior species had never known before. Our analysis of the few survivors and escape pods we have recovered suggests technology that has evolved beyond anything we possess. The implications of his words hit the chamber like a physical blow. For thousands of years, the Council had ruled the galaxy through technological superiority. The idea that someone could not only match but exceed their capabilities was beyond comprehension. Zephos continued, his voice growing more desperate with each word. Whoever is doing this has not just defeated our ships, they have captured them, studied them, improved upon our own designs, and turned our strengths against us. The chamber fell silent as the full horror of the situation became clear. Their enemy was not just destroying Council forces, but learning from each victory, becoming stronger and more dangerous with every encounter. We need help. Vexstar announced, the words tasting like poison in his mouth. I am authorizing contact with every species in the galaxy, including those we have previously rejected for membership. The announcement sent shockwaves through the chamber. The Council had never asked for help from anyone, let alone from species they had deemed unworthy, but desperation had destroyed their pride, and they were running out of options. Deep in human space, Admiral Lee Dongmin received the Council's desperate message with cold satisfaction. The transmission was broadcast across the entire galaxy, a plea for help that revealed just how far the mighty Council had fallen to. All species of the galaxy, the message began. The Galactic Council faces an unprecedented threat. An unknown enemy is attacking our territories with technology beyond our understanding. We call upon all civilized beings to unite against this common danger. Dr. Kim So-young looked up from her research station. They are offering everything, Admiral, everything they refused to give us 5 years ago, and more, added Commander Park Ji-woo. They are essentially admitting that their technology is no longer superior. They Admiral studied the desperate message carefully. Have they figured out that we are responsible yet? No, replied Dr. Kim So-young, our intelligence networks. Report that they are investigating every known species except the ones they have rejected. Their arrogance is still blinding them to the truth. The Council's plea for help had unexpected results across the galaxy. Species that had been rejected, ignored, or dismissed began to respond, but not in the way the Council had hoped. The warrior species Sectar, who had been rejected for being too aggressive, sent back a message filled with barely hidden amusement. The Great Council needs our help, they asked. How very interesting. Perhaps we should consider your request for the right price. The insect-like Velnari, who had been dismissed as too primitive, responded with what could only be described as laughter. The Council thought we were unworthy of their attention. Now they beg for our assistance. We will watch your struggle with great interest. But it was humanity's response that truly shocked the Council. Admiral Li Dongmin's face appeared on screens throughout Council space, his weathered features showing no emotion as he delivered his message. We received your transmission, he said in a voice that was calm and controlled. We remember our last meeting with the Council quite clearly. You called us too violent, too primitive, too chaotic, you said. Our technology was laughably outdated. You ordered us to go home and stay there. He paused, letting the words sink in before continuing. We did exactly what you suggested. We went home, and we have been very busy. The transmission ended, leaving the Council members staring at empty screens in stunned silence. The great chamber was so quiet that the only sound was the soft humming of the space station's life support systems. Then slowly the horrible truth began to dawn on them. The humans, Vextar whispered, his voice barely audible. It is the humans. The realization hit the Council like a physical blow. The species they had dismissed as irrelevant, the primitive humans they had forgotten about, were the ones who had brought their mighty civilization to its knees. But that is impossible, protested Representative Quinera, her crystalline form pulsing with disbelief. Their technology was centuries behind ours. How could they have advanced so quick? Lysiphos, the strategic mind among the Council members, understood first. They did not just advance, he said slowly. They learned from us. Every ship we lost, every battle we fought gave them more knowledge about our technology, our tactics, our weaknesses. The Council members looked at each other with growing horror as they realized the full scope of their mistake. They had not just rejected humanity, they had created their own worst enemy. They used our own technology against us. Zephos continued, his voice filled with admiration despite his fear. They took our advanced systems, studied them, improved upon them, and created something entirely new. The chamber erupted in panicked voices as the Council members finally understood what they were facing. This was not just an enemy with superior technology. This was an enemy that had learned to think like them, fight like them, but with the added advantages of human creativity and determination. We underestimated them completely. Vextar said, his forearms drooping with defeat. We treated them like insects, and they have become predators. The Council faced a choice that would have been unthinkable just months before. They could continue their hopeless fight against an enemy that had clearly surpassed them, or they could do something they had never done in their long, proud history. They could ask for mercy from the species they had rejected. Emergency meetings were called throughout Council space. Military commanders admitted that they had no strategy to fight an enemy who seemed to know their every move. Political leaders confessed that they had no idea how to negotiate with beings they had previously dismissed as unworthy. The mighty Galactic Council that had ruled over dozens of species for thousands of years was reduced to begging for help from the very people they had once scorned. And somewhere in the depths of space, human ships continued their relentless advance, each victory bringing them closer to the day when the Council would have to face the consequences of their arrogance. Species that had been called too primitive to matter had become the most dangerous force in the galaxy, and they were just getting started. The meeting took place on a small asteroid that floated in the empty space between star systems, far from any inhabited world. This rocky piece of debris had been quickly converted into a neutral meeting place for the first time in galactic history. The mighty Council was coming to negotiate from a position of complete weakness. Admiral Li Dongmin arrived with a small fleet of human ships that gleamed like silver knives in the starlight. These vessels were nothing like the crude machines The council remembered instead they moved with deadly grace, their hulls pulsing with energy that spoke of power beyond anything the aliens had ever seen. As the admiral walked through the hastily built corridors of the asteroid station, he was followed by Dr. Kim So-young and a team of human negotiators. All of them carried themselves with the quiet confidence of people who held all the advantages in the coming discussion. The main conference room was large but simple, with a long table surrounded by chairs designed for different alien body types. The council representatives were already waiting, and they looked like beings who had aged decades in just a few months. Speaker Vexstar sat at the head of the table, his forearms fidgeting constantly. His skin had turned a sickly gray color, and his large black eyes showed the strain of sleepless nights. The being who had once dismissed humanity with such arrogance now looked like a broken leader facing the end of his world. Admiral Lee Dong-min took his seat across from the council delegation, moving with the careful control of a predator who knew the prey was already trapped. "We received your request for this meeting," he said in a voice that was calm but carried an edge of steel. "Thank you for coming." Vexstar began, his words stumbling slightly. "We appreciate your willingness to discuss the current situation." Admiral raised an eyebrow. "Current situation is that what you call it?" Council member Zephos leaned forward, his reptilian features showing obvious stress. "Admiral, we know that your forces have been responsible for the attacks on our ships. We know that you have defeated our fleets and captured our technology. Do you?" Admiral Lee Dong-min replied with a slight smile. "I thought we were too primitive for such advanced operations." "Was that not what you said 5 years ago?" The reminder hit the council members like a physical blow. They had hoped to avoid discussing their previous rejection of humanity, but the admiral was clearly not going to let them forget their mistakes. Dr. Kim So-young spoke up, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had helped design humanity's victory. "You called us violent savages. You said our technology was laughably outdated. You told us we were unworthy of galactic citizenship." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. "That was not a hasty judgment, as you now claim. That was contempt, pure and simple contempt for a species you considered beneath your notice. We made a mistake." Vexstar admitted, the words clearly painful for him to speak. "We failed to recognize your potential. We failed to see your true capabilities. We ask for your forgiveness." "Forgiveness?" Admiral Lee Dong-min repeated the words slowly. "You rejected us when we came in peace-seeking friendship and cooperation. You humiliated us before the entire galaxy. You declared us unworthy of even basic respect." He stood up, his presence commanding the room. "And now, when your fleets are broken and your authority is crumbling, you want forgiveness?" The council representatives exchanged desperate glances. They had come prepared to negotiate, but the humans seemed more interested in making them acknowledge every detail of their failures. Representative Quinera's crystalline form pulsed with nervous energy. "What do you want from us? What will it take to end this conflict?" The admiral smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. "What do we want? We want what we asked for 5 years ago. We want respect. We want recognition. We want to be treated as equals, not as lesser beings who must prove their worth to their betters. You have it," Vexstar said quickly. "Full council membership, complete recognition of your sovereignty, immediate access to all our technology and trade networks, whatever you desire." "You misunderstand." Dr. Kim So-young interrupted. "We do not want your technology anymore. We have surpassed it. We do not need your trade networks. We are building better ones, and we certainly do not need your permission to be respected." The council members looked confused and frightened. If the humans did not want their technology or their resources, what did they want? Admiral Lee Dong-min walked to the large window that looked out at the stars. "What we want is simple. We want the galaxy to know what happened here. We want every species to understand that the council's judgment is not absolute." He turned back to face the alien representatives. "We want them to know that those you reject, those you dismiss, those you consider unworthy might just surprise." Youth Admiral's voice grew stronger as he continued. "You are going to make an announcement to the entire galaxy. You are going to admit that your rejection of humanity was wrong. You are going to acknowledge that we surpassed your technology and defeated your fleets." He paused for effect. "And you are going to formally apologize for your arrogance and your contempt." The council members recoiled as if they had been slapped. A public admission of error, a formal apology for beings who had considered themselves the ultimate authority in the galaxy for thousands of years. The request was almost unbearable, and, "If we refuse," Zethos asked quietly, Commander Park Ji-woo had been silent until now, finally spoke, "Then we continue our current operations. Your fleets will keep disappearing. Your trade routes will remain disrupted. Your authority will continue to crumble." He leaned back in his chair with casual confidence. "Eventually, the galaxy will realize that the mighty council cannot even protect itself, let alone govern others. Species will begin to question your leadership. Some will rebel, others will simply ignore your orders." The ultimatum hung in the air like a sword over the council's heads. They could maintain their pride and watch their civilization collapse, or they could swallow their arrogance and publicly admit their failures. But there was more. Commander Park Ji-woo continued, "We are not the only species you have rejected over the centuries. The galaxy is full of beings you have dismissed as unworthy. They are all watching this conflict with great interest." Dr. Kim So-young nodded in agreement. "Many of them have already contacted us, offering alliances and partnerships. They want to build something new, something better than the rigid hierarchy you have created." The implications were staggering. The Council was not just facing military defeat, but the complete collapse of the galactic order. They had built over millennia. "You have 24 hours," Admiral Lee Dongmin announced as he prepared to leave. "After that, we resume our operations." He paused at the door. "The choice is yours. You can admit your mistakes and begin the work of rebuilding trust with the species you have wronged, or you can cling to your pride and watch everything you built crumble into dust." As the humans left the conference room, the council representatives sat in stunned silence. They had come expecting to negotiate a peace treaty. Instead, they had been given a lesson in humility by the very species they had once dismissed as primitive. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the greatest mistake you can make is underestimating those you consider beneath you. The council had created their own downfall through arrogance and contempt. Now they faced a choice that would define not just their own future, but the future of every species in the galaxy: submit to the demands of the humans they had rejected, or face the complete destruction of everything they had built. The clock was ticking, and the humans were not known for their patience. 5 years had passed since the Council rejected humanity, and the galaxy had forgotten about the small blue planet at the edge of known space. The alien races went about their business, trading with each other and following the Council's rules. They sometimes told stories about the primitive humans who had dared to ask for membership, and everyone would laugh at how foolish those creatures had been. The Council members believed the humans had crawled back to their little world to cry about their defeat. They imagined Earth as a sad place where the rejected species lived in shame and failure. If any alien bothered to think about humans at all, they pictured them giving up on space travel and returning to their simple lives. They could not have been more wrong. Deep in human space, something incredible was happening. The rejection had not broken humanity's spirit. Instead, it had done something the Council never expected. It had united every human being on Earth and beyond like nothing in history had ever done before. Dr. Kim So-young stood in the center of the largest research building ever constructed on Earth. The facility stretched for miles underground and reached high into the sky like a metal mountain. Inside this amazing place, thousands of the smartest humans who had ever lived worked day and night without rest. They came from every country and every culture, but they all shared the same burning desire to prove the Council wrong. On giant screens throughout the building, the recording of their rejection played over and over again. The aliens' mocking laughter echoed through the halls, and the speaker's cruel words were displayed in huge letters for everyone to see. But instead of making the humans feel sad, these reminders made them work harder. "They called our medicine basic," Dr. Kim So-young told her team of scientists as they gathered around a table covered with amazing new inventions. "Let us show them what basic really means." In one corner of the lab, a group of doctors had created medicines that could heal wounds in minutes. In another section, scientists had built machines that could regrow lost arms and legs. The humans had not just improved their medical knowledge, they had leaped forward by centuries. In just 5 years, above the planet Mars, in the cold darkness of space, Commander Park Ji-woo watched as shipbuilders put together vessels unlike anything humanity had ever created. These were not the slow, clumsy ships the council had mocked. These new ships were beautiful and deadly, looking like silver arrows that could cut through space itself. "Sir," called out engineer Han Min-sik as he ran toward the commander. "The new engine tests are finished. These ships will be 3 times faster than anything the council has ever built." Park Ji-woo nodded as he watched the first of the new fleet take shape in the construction yard. The ship was sleek and smooth, with no wasted space or unnecessary parts. Every line of its design spoke of speed and power. "What about the other systems?" he asked. "Already, sir," Han Min-sik replied with excitement in his voice. "The new shields can absorb energy attacks and turn them into power for our weapons. The hull can repair itself if it gets damaged, and the new computer systems can think and react faster than any alien pilot." But the most amazing changes were happening on Earth itself. Captain Lee Dongmin had become Admiral Lee Dongmin, and he was leading the greatest military cooperation in human history. Every army, navy, and air force on the planet was working together, sharing their secrets and combining their strengths. The old enemies who had fought each other for thousands of years were now brothers in arms. Americans worked alongside Russians, Chinese soldiers trained with Indian troops, European commanders shared strategies with African generals. The whole world had become one giant military force with a single purpose. "Admiral," reported Colonel Yu Sung-ho as he entered the command center, "our training programs are working better than we ever dreamed. Our soldiers are learning to fight as one unit, regardless of what country they come from." Lee Dongmin studied the reports on his desk with satisfaction. "The council thinks we are chaotic and divided," he said. "They are about to learn that chaos can be a weapon when it is properly aimed." In universities around the world, human scientists were making discoveries that would have seemed impossible just years before. They were not just catching up to alien technology, they were surpassing it in ways that shocked even themselves. As Jang Hae-won, a young woman who had been just a student when the council rejected humanity, made a breakthrough that changed everything. "I have been studying the alien technology from the data we collected during our visit," she explained to her amazed colleagues. She pointed to complex diagrams on the wall showing alien ship designs. "Their technology is very advanced, but it is also very old. They have been using the same basic ideas for thousands of years, making tiny improvements, but never really changing anything. But we are different," she continued with fire in her eyes. "We are still growing, still learning, still hungry for new ideas. We can take their 1,000-year-old technology and make it better in ways they never imagined." The breakthrough came when human scientists realized something the aliens had missed. The council species had become so focused on perfection and order that they had stopped being creative. They followed rules and patterns that had worked for millennia, but they never asked if there might be better ways. Humans, however, were born to break rules and find new paths. They took alien technology apart piece by piece, studied how it worked, and then rebuilt it in ways that were completely new. Some of the new human inventions were so different from alien designs that they seemed like magic secret bases hidden throughout the solar system. Humans were building weapons and ships that combined the best of both worlds. They used alien knowledge as a starting point, but then added human creativity and innovation. The results were amazing machines that neither species could have created alone. The aliens had called humans too violent, but humans had learned to channel that violence into focused determination. They had called humans too chaotic, but humans had learned to use chaos as a tool for innovation. They had called human technology primitive, but humans had used that as motivation to build something entirely new. Throughout this time, the council continued to believe they were safe and superior. They occasionally received reports about increased activity in human space, but they dismissed these as the desperate efforts of a defeated species trying to rebuild their pride. "If we destroyed them now," one council member suggested during a meeting, "it would save us trouble later." The speaker, who had rejected humanity 5 years earlier, waved dismissively. "Let them play with their primitive toys," he said. "They cannot threaten us. Even if they work for 100 years, they cannot match our technology." This attitude of contempt and dismissal spread throughout council space. The aliens were so confident in their superiority that they never bothered to investigate what the humans were really doing. They were so sure of their own power that they never considered the possibility that the species they had rejected might become dangerous. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, human ships began to move. They were not the slow, clumsy vessels the Council remembered. These new ships were fast and silent, like predators hunting in the dark. They could appear and disappear without warning, strike without being seen, and escape before anyone knew they were there. The humans had learned patience during their 5 years of isolation. They had learned to plan and prepare and wait for the perfect moment. They had learned that sometimes the best revenge was not anger, but cold, calculated action. Dr. Kim So-young stood in the main command center watching displays that showed human activity throughout the galaxy. The time for hiding was almost over. Soon the Council would learn what humanity had become during their years of isolation. They rejected us because they thought we were weak, she said to Admiral Lee Dong-min as he joined her at the command center. They are about to discover that rejection does not make humans weak, it makes them dangerous. The Admiral nodded as he looked at the reports of their hidden fleet, their advanced technology, and their perfectly trained forces. The Council wanted us to stay in our corner of the galaxy, he said. They are going to learn that corners can be very dangerous places. Humanity was ready. The species that had been dismissed as primitive and chaotic had become something the galaxy had never seen before. They had become a force that combined alien technology with human innovation, alien knowledge with human determination, alien power with human creativity. The Council had created their own worst enemy by rejecting the one species that would never accept defeat. The humans were coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. The transmission began at exactly the same time across every inhabited world in the galaxy, from the crystal cities of the Velnari to the floating cloud homes of the gas giant dwellers. Every being with access to communication technology watched as the most powerful civilization in known space prepared to eat their word speaker. Vextar stood before the great council chamber, his forearms trembling as he faced what was undoubtedly the most difficult moment of his long life. The being who had once dismissed humanity with such contempt now looked like a broken leader about to confess his greatest failure. Citizens of the galaxy, he began, his voice carrying across space to reach billions of watching beings. The Council has called this emergency session to make an announcement regarding the recent conflicts that have shaken our civilization. He paused, visibly gathering his courage for what came next. 5 years ago, a species called humanity petitioned for membership in our council. We rejected their application, deeming them too primitive, too violent, and too chaotic for galactic citizenship. The words sent shockwaves through the watching galaxy. The Council never admitted mistakes, never showed weakness, never acknowledged that their judgment could be wrong, but here was their highest leader confessing to error before every species in known space. We called their technology outdated and their civilization unworthy of our respect. Vextar continued, his voice growing stronger. With each painful word, we were wrong. Not only did we misjudge humanity's potential, but we failed to recognize qualities that we ourselves had lost on Earth in the great command center that had coordinated humanity's response to the Council's rejection. Thousands of human voices erupted in celebration. Admiral Lee Dong-min watched the broadcast with quiet satisfaction while Dr. Kim So-young stood beside him with tears of vindication in her eyes. Their creativity, their adaptability, their refusal to accept defeat. Vextar's voice continued across the galaxy. These are not weaknesses as we believed, but strengths that we had forgotten in our pursuit of perfect order. The council chamber was silent except for the speaker's voice, but throughout the galaxy the reaction was anything but quiet. Species that had been rejected by the council were celebrating in their homeworlds. Beings that had been dismissed as unworthy were reconsidering their relationship with the galactic government. In the months that followed our rejection, Vextar admitted humanity did not retreat in defeat as we expected. Instead, they used our dismissal as motivation to surpass us. They studied our technology, improved upon it, and created innovations that we believed impossible. Commander Park Ji-woo turned to his colleagues in the Human Command Center. He is actually doing it. The mighty council is admitting they were beaten by the primitive humans they rejected. The recent attacks on our vessels were not carried out by unknown aliens or mysterious forces. Vextar's confession continued. They were the work of humanity, a Species we had declared too primitive to deserve our respect, they defeated our fleets, captured our technology, and demonstrated capabilities that exceeded our own. The admission hit the galaxy like a thunderbolt. The Council's authority, built on thousands of years of supposed superiority, was crumbling with every word. Their leader spoke. The Council formally apologizes to humanity for our arrogance and our failure to recognize their worth. Vextar concluded, his voice now heavy with genuine remorse. We acknowledge that our judgment was flawed, our attitudes were wrong, and our actions were unjust. When the broadcast ended, the galaxy fell into a stunned silence that lasted for several minutes. Then slowly the implications began to sink in and the reaction started. The old order, where the Council's word was absolute law, was collapsing before everyone's eyes. But humanity was not finished. Admiral Lee Dongmin's image appeared on screens throughout known space shortly after the Council's apology. His weathered face showed no triumph or gloating, only a quiet determination to build something better. People of the galaxy, he began his words carrying the authority of someone who had just defeated the most powerful civilization in existence. Humanity accepts the Council's apology. We have no desire to rule over others or to replace one form of arrogance with another. He paused, looking directly into the camera. What we want is partnership, cooperation, and mutual respect among all species. We want to build a galaxy where worth is not determined by the judgment of a few, but by the contributions of all. The response was immediate, and overwhelming. Species from across the galaxy began reaching out to humanity, offering alliances, sharing technology, and proposing joint ventures. The rigid hierarchy that had defined galactic civilization for millennia was giving way to something entirely new. To those species that have been rejected, dismissed, or forgotten by the Council, Admiral Lee Dongmin continued, you are not alone. Your potential is not determined by their judgment. Your worth is not measured by their standards. Dr. Kim So-young, now appointed as humanity's first galactic ambassador, established the new interspecies cooperation initiative. The headquarters were built on Earth itself, the planet the Council had once considered too primitive to matter. We learned something important during our years of isolation, she explained to representatives from dozens of species who had gathered for the first meeting. Diversity is not a weakness to be overcome, but a strength to be celebrated. Each species brings unique perspectives, abilities, and solutions to the challenges we all face. The Council still existed, but their role had changed completely. No longer the ultimate authority, they became just one voice among many in the new galactic community. Some Council members adapted to this change, embracing the cooperative spirit that humanity had introduced. Others struggled with their reduced status and gradually faded from important. Speaker Vextar requested a private meeting with Admiral Lee Dongmin. Several months after the public apology, they met on the same asteroid where the surrender negotiations had taken place, but the atmosphere was entirely different. I wanted to personally thank you, Vextar said. His